Hello, this is Noelle, and today I'm going to be talking about the planet Uranus in the gene key 20, which is in the tropical system Gemini from 0 degrees to 5 degrees and 45 arc minutes. It's hard to know where to begin with this gene key because it is very powerful. In human design, it is known as the gate of now. And in the gene keys, it's known as the gate of presence. In this state of presence, you acquire a self-assurance and a wisdom to deal with whatever comes your way. This gene key is located in the throat center. So, may I recommend, while you're listening to it, or for this period of time while this transit is active, to listen to music or harmonics or chants related to the throat center or throat chakra. The gate of now in the throat center has 3 channels connected to it. This is what makes it powerful. It connects to the channel of awakening, which is the 2010, which connects to the heart center. The channel of ultimate knowing, which is 2057, which connects the throat to the spleen. And the channel of charisma, which is the 2034, and that connects the throat to the sacral. That one is also known as a channel of power because the 34 is the gate of power. Actually, as I'm making this, the moon right now is in the 34, so this channel is active. The power of now. This hexagram is composed of 2 trigrams, Earth below the wind. It brings to mind the wind passing over the fields, passing through the valley, like a flock of geese observing beneath them. It has a lot of connotations in the I Ching to a benevolent ruler assessing his kingdom. I think it's very fitting in the tropical system that it is related to Gemini, because Gemini is a sign which is all about knowledge, being associated with Mercury, and communication, which is the ability to manifest knowledge into the now. Uranus is known as a planet of shock and uprising, also a planet of revolution. It is currently associated with the ruler Aquarius, but it does not have an exaltation sign. Currently, there's quite a lot of debate about it, but I have a personal belief that it is exalted in Gemini. The reason being, while Aquarius is its ruler, and Aquarius is associated with revolutionary concepts, Aquarius itself is a very stubborn sign. It's fixed air, so even though it is a humanitarian sign, one that wants to revolt against the status quo, it is actually quite ideological. So it sometimes can trap itself in its own revolutionary concepts. Whereas Gemini is just purely mental, which I think Uranus actually appreciates. Also, Mercury, or Hermes, or Prometheus, is actually a planet god and sign which is deeply concerned with helping the small people. Aquarius is innovative, but it often is elitist and thinks itself to know better than the common laborer. And it doesn't want to dirty its hands, and it doesn't want to think of the menial tasks which are required to sustain society. It will overlook them, which actually causes disruption and dissolution if those things are ignored. Uranus in Gemini absolutely loves a change to the status quo, regardless of who is in charge. And that is all for the service of the mental truth, the actual facts, the now. In the I Ching, of which I'm going to read the commentary's translation by Wilhelm, it discusses the hexagram of contemplation thus: when the wind blows over the earth, it goes far and wide, and the grass must bend to its power. These two occurrences find confirmation in the hexagram. The two images are used to symbolize the practice of the kings of old. In making regular journeys, the ruler could, in the first place, survey his realm, and make certain that none of the existing usages of the people escaped notice. So, it is a gate which says, don't overlook the details. Actually look at what you have in reality, openly and objectively. Do not bring your ideology into it. Rather, take account, factually. And I do think that Uranus really likes this position, because Uranus is not about imposing an ideology or imposing karma like Saturn does, but rather it will say, hey, you might not be noticing this really important thing, and I'm going to bring it to your attention. It might feel like a shock, but if you had listened or saw or paid attention, you would have seen what was coming. The first line of Hexagram 20 is called Superficiality in the Line Companion by Ra Uruhuru. And this line, he does not mince that it has a shallowness to it, but it's only because the observational aspect is so matter of fact. In the Gene Keys by Richard Rudd, this gate is often described as the gate which oversees all of the insect kingdom. Simultaneously, also anything involving herd or flock behavior, mermations, and mirror neurons, the kind of information that is processed through whiskers and antennae, and you think that it is not important, or even you might not even recognize it, but it's the kind of thing which enables animals to sense earthquakes coming before everybody else. And so this is the power here. And in this first line, which is the foundational line for understanding the true essence of the hexagram, that is what is described. And Ra Uruhuru specifically describes the behaviors of cats. Cats are highly observant, and actually most people don't know this, but they have whisker hairs all over their body, not just on their noses. So some people have considered cats to be psychic or to be able to perceive ghosts, and in the past worshipped them as guardians of the dead. That's what this power is. In the I Ching, when this line changes, it is changing to hexagram 42, which is actually increase, and the bottom trigram which is earth, is changing to thunder. And this, in my opinion, is further proof that I think Uranus loves this position in the sky, because it is suggesting a shock or an upheaval coming from below, almost like a kundalini power, but definitely something not without its signs and portents. Interestingly enough, in Vedic astrology, even though this sign is actually not in Gemini, but in Taurus, this particular degree from 0 to 1 degrees of Gemini, which then shifts backwards into 6 degrees of Taurus, from 6 degrees to 7 degrees approximately. It is a very lucky placement, known as a Pushkar Navamsa. No, it's a specific sub-degree that is beneficial for all communal activities, contracts, marriage, business, marketing, creativity, all forms of communication. So it's actually a good period. There might be positive surprises in store. This is actually my first video that I'm making about the hexagrams, and I feel drawn to do this one because I think we all need to be more present in our lives. Additionally, Ra Uruhu has spoken about his human design system being particularly empowered by and closely affected by the transits of Uranus. And I do feel that way about it. I feel that his transmission is very Uranian in nature, very outside of the tradition, and ultimately revolutionary in the sense of synchronicity. It brings it all together in a very indigo, empowering way. I would like to speak now about the Sabian interpretations of this degree, which are vital for me in understanding these frequencies. And the Sabian symbols are remotely viewed images that were channeled to describe each individual degree of the zodiac. And so, the Sabian degree image for Gemini from 0 to 1 degrees is a glass-bottomed boat floating in still and luscious water. Now this is very interesting because Hexagram 20, being the Hexagram of Contemplation, nowness and presence, actually starts out with a symbol which is about observation. And in this transparent glass-bottom boat, it really is something like you're seeing the reality that may have been blinded or obscured from you until recently. However, it's also still a surface level view, which matches up perfectly with Rahu Uruhu's description of this line being superficial in nature. But that doesn't mean, again, what I love about it is how neatly it fits. Because just because it's superficial doesn't mean it's not profound. And in this glass-bottom boat, looking through the water which you may not have been able to see before, yes, you're still on the surface of the water, but you can also see really far. And in the hexagram for this first line, it explicitly describes that a man of influence is able to see very far. despite he's only having a passing glimpse. So, process that for a moment and keep this in view for the next 60 or so days, because Uranus will be in this line, this first line of Hexagram 20, for quite a while, especially because in September, I believe Uranus is going to be going retrograde. So it's going to be retrograding back through this line and then forward again, making it stay in this particular degree for quite a while. I would also like to note an additional inclusion of the changing Sabian interpretation for the first line of Hexagram 42. And I think it's important to give a polarity, a paradox, a duality to the nature of this degree and its special association with the hexagram. And that hexagram 42, that first line, would be in the 20th degree of Aries. And gene key or hexagram 42 is associated with increase and is also associated with celebration. But even so, that celebration is actually supposed to have a level of detachment to it. So I think that's interesting. But let's get to the Sabian degree. The Sabian degree of 20 Aries, that's going from 20 degrees to 21 degrees, I should be most clear, is an interesting one. It's a pugilist entering the ring. And so this is like a fighter who is, that's what a pugilist is a boxer. So a boxer entering the ring, I feel, also kind of brings back that kind of unconscious, instinctual knowing, that mirror neuron, trained, whiskers, antennae, sixth sense understanding and preparedness that an athlete would have. And so apply that to the glass-bottomed boat in still water. It's a complete reversal because you're going from stillness to a fighting ring. However, Ra Uruhu mentions himself on this line that one of the gifts of people with this line is that they're very, very good in crises. And so I think that is explaining this nature perfectly, that it is a superficial yet highly developed sense of nowness. It is the knowledge of the flock. It is the trained sixth sense. It is the hyper-awareness to be able to master any moment. And with that, I say thank you and namaste.